What's up, everybody? Welcome to 164 episodes of Value Town. This is the 164th. I'm ChanManV, and Gaara is joining me, and our friend Shutterwalk is also here to accompanying us on the show. No, DrJikininki, he's supposed to be joining us, but I think he's running late, so I figured we'd get started a little bit without him, and then once he gets on, we'll definitely add him to the show. But this week has been the first week of the Witchwood expansion. Gaara, how's it been treating you so far, man?
It's been absolutely fantastic, I would say.
Yeah?
I never had so much fun, I think.
Really?
Testing all sorts of different things.
There's been mixed reviews, I have to say, so far with this expansion. Like, some people, I think have, just been enjoying it, like I would say any other expansion, just being brand new. And then some people think, there's just been some TGT comparisons already, which I think are completely unfair. But yeah, it's kind of surprised me, that some people actually think that, because TGT was, I think, the worst expansion, or at least maybe from the standpoint of just the general public. I think TGT is probably voted the worst one. So what are your thoughts right now? You're clearly having a lot of fun, so it's the opposite for you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also get the TGT reference. Mm-hmm. It is, I think it's because of the echo mechanic and what is the other mechanic that we have? The switcheroni and...
Oh, the Worgen. They call it Worgen.
Oh, the Worgen. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just low-key. They're not very playable. They're not very too oppressive or anything like that. Just not too crazy. But I think this is exactly what we needed, actually. A very low power level expansion. And this really makes so many different archetypes and decks playable. You can really see the top streamers, the pro players, how much they're actually playing this expansion. I think I saw Firebit not going to sleep for 2 days. He was just playing for 48 hours.
That's why he's sick right now.
Yeah, it's just because he's having so much fun, so many ideas. There's so many different decks you can play right now, and I'm having a blast as well. I think every single day now that I was streaming, I played 10 to 20 different decks, and it hasn't stopped so far. So every single day, and there's still so many different decks, and no deck is refined yet, and every top tier deck that we have right now is definitely beatable. Nothing is super impressive, and it's just, I'm having a blast.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about the meta and just what we've seen, just through the stats I've seen in HSReplay and everything. But I agree with you. My approach to it all is I usually just stick to a class or a couple class and really just explore it as much as I can. Because if I switch too much, then I feel like I don't get a chance to really learn much, or really get a good understanding of it. So I try to just stick with the one class. I've just been playing Druid. I told you on day one that I was playing the Taunt Druid, or some version of the Taunt Druid that's not as refined as the one that you see now. So that discovery, I have to say, I wasn't too surprised when it became something really, really good the last few days. But that's been kind of the class I've been focused on. So it's been good. And the reason I picked Druid, by the way, is because everybody thought Druid was gonna suck, right? In our reviews, everybody's like, it's about time for Druid to be in the basement, and it's the complete opposite right now. So Druid's is clearly doghouse proof. It's just not allowed to be in the doghouse. So I've been playing a lot of that. I've just been starting to get into Hunter. So, I know you've played a little bit too, but haven't really, I'd say, found something good, super good quite yet, in terms of against this meta. But it's been fun. It's definitely been fun, exploring and just thinking about things. I just sit there in the collection sometimes, just thinking for 15 minutes as to, what would be good with Shaw, that sort of thing. But I'm having a blast. Yeah. I think right now with the comparison to TGT, it does have a lot of what you're saying. It's, Worgen, just the Worgen thing doesn't seem to be too effective right now. I think that the mechanics too, Rush and Echo, aren't the type of mechanics and themes that that are new win conditions, right? Like it's not like Ngoro, you know, like some people are comparing, you know, trying to compare this and see how it is relevant to or relative to Ngoro, given that was the first expansion last year. Ngoro is different because they created all these like win conditions, these new win conditions. So this isn't like that. This is more changing like fundamental mechanics that were flawed to begin with, you know, like, and Rush is like a better charge, right? And Echo is a better way to like, you know, create this value with very little resources. So, you know, I think because of that, we haven't, you know, we've seen still these strong decks from the previous expansion, like Q Block and things still doing well. So it'll take some time. I think it'll take, you know, time. It'll take like the deck builders really just to really start from a blank canvas, and, you know, like people like yourself, you know, like really give everything a shot. And then I think we'll see something start emerging after, you know, a few weeks.
I think the feeling that I get from this expansion or this cycle, because it's kind of like a group of expansions that we have, is that the meta is not really solvable. Because I think no matter what kind of decks we build, there will be beatable. So I think even like after months into this expansion, we will still see new stuff. I really believe that. And I'm very excited about the upcoming tournaments, because they will be crazy. People will play all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the pro scene is going to, you know, one thing that I have noticed is that, you know, just the top legend type of meta is very different right now than what you see in even, you know, rank 10 up to legend. So, you know, a lot of things like the meta pulse I posted today and things like that look different than they do at the very top. Some similarities too, but there are definitely some decks that seem to pose well. And I don't know if it's because of piloting, you know, like, are these people, you know, is it just because the players are just better with these decks, or it's just, you know, the meta is a bit more refined up at the top?
I think that people can really make the strongest decks, or the decks they play the best, work in the meta. This is why we see people like do well with Control Warrior. I've seen so many people like reach rank 1 legend with different warrior lists, like not even a Baku Quest Warrior, just regular Control Warrior. But then there's like Q Block players, Miracle Rook players. It wasn't just Fibonacci. I think Meaty as well. And I've seen other people.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to see. It's like you play your deck, your control deck. It could even be Control Priest, I'm convinced. And you just invest time, make it work, and it will be good, I'm pretty sure. Because the overall power level between the classes is lower. We don't have these oppressive archetypes like Rasaku's Priest. And Control Lock and Q Block got so much weaker without Nuzov and without Mistress of Mixtures. So they're more
the heal's been huge. Like I've definitely felt the lack of the heal, you know, playing it a little bit recently. But so we're going to get into the meta just a second, but let's talk about a little bit of news. So yesterday it was announced that Chakki, you know, just player coach, you know, or most recently coach of Tempo Storm, announced that he was joining Blizzard on the balance team. So you know, another long time player, you know, like it started with Reels, and obviously Puffin joined after, and now Chakki. So I like the old school players, man, like serious old school, actually getting you know, picked up by Blizzard. So what's your thoughts on Chakki getting, or at least joining the team?
Like, I couldn't choose a better person to join the team. He's I really enjoy talking with Chakki. Like, I was at all sorts of different tournaments with him. I was like in China with him. I remember sitting at the table with Life Coach and him, just discussing about like decks and stuff. He's so smart, and he really enjoys thinking about like all sorts of crazy things as well. Like all sorts of, this is what Blizzard was talking about when they like were revealing cards and stuff. They were always saying that they're thinking about like, will certain cards be like broken with Maligos and all sorts of interactions. And we've also seen like Chakki immediately coming up with some crazy Miracle Rogue OTK with Lobaka Cho and Azalina.
Cho TK, yeah.
And it actually broke the game. You bug out before you can finish the combo. It's actually hilarious. But only he thinks about stuff like that.
Right.
And I can't wait to see how much impact he will have. And a lot of people are saying, like he alone will not have a big impact. You know, he's just one guy and he will not change too much. And I think small differences, small changes can have a huge impact. Like if he could have prevented like a few cards of the past, cards like, Barnes, maybe like Draconic Operative, or patches in how it was. If he would have said, oh, those cards will definitely be a little bit too strong before they get like released, I think we would have had a way better game in the past as well. So you don't have to make like an insane difference or like an insane big impact to have an impact.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
I mean, the biggest thing I like about the Chakki, addition is that he's the first guy that's being added to the team that has been a pro player. Like a legitimate pro player. Has been on the tour. Actually tried to, has been competing in HCT, and most recently he's been a coach. But still, he's been in that competitive format. So I think his views on things, even though Puffin and Reels obviously have that kind of pedigree too in the past. We actually have somebody who's experienced the frustrations of some of the cards, that have been released from a balance standpoint. I mean, that's definitely great. Chakki obviously being a very analytical guy too. He's like one of those guys that use the numbers. Like there's certain people in our that are in our community kind of known for that, like Firebat and Chakki, and it's great to actually see him get a chance to just be able to balance the cards. And I feel like all the players, I feel like the dream of all the players is actually be on the balance team. So the way I like to sum up this story is it's literally memes to dreams right here, like with Chakki, because this is the meme master is actually going to be on Blizzard.
It's like
balance
the
team.
plot twist. The plot twist is that he will make Face Hunter broken again.
Oh my gosh, exactly. He's for those of you who might not have known the history of Chakki, he's always been a proponent of going face. Definitely that style of playing. So, right now we've got Rush, so you can't even go face. I mean, we've actually got a restriction on going face at this point. But congrats to him, man. I mean, I know he's super happy, and hopefully we'll get a chance to, I don't know, maybe talk to him one of these days. It'd be awesome on the show.
I wonder if Chakki will do that, ask people's opinion, like, because especially the NA scene, people are more like, in little groups of players, and Chakki was always like in the group of, Amnesiac, Sane, Mazi, and all those. And if he, when like, I don't know how much is under NDA and how that works, but if you will actually go to people and ask them,
it's good, right? It's like you have a very direct connection to all these pro players, right? Like I'm sure that played a part into hiring Chakki, is that he is closely connected. They respect him, and he, again, like his experience with all of these guys' experience too, I think is going to bring a very good perspective to the balance team. So yeah, congrats to him. And I think he starts next week or something like that, or really, really soon. So maybe we'll see some semblance of his just effect to the team starting next expansion. Because I know they're working on like the expansion after that right now, right? So I think they always save a little bit of room to make some last minute adjustments to the upcoming expansion. So maybe we'll see what kind of impact he has there. I'm sure he'll let us know if it is something that he ended up having a big role in changing, and then we can either applaud him or give him crap about it, right?
Then we need to have him on the show.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd definitely be good. Okay, well, anyways, let's jump into some of the meta. So we're almost done with week 1 of the Witchwood meta. And I posted a pulse today. It's kind of our meta pulse, HSReplay's meta pulse. And what I've been doing with the pulse is I've just been kind of summing up the class rankings, and here we'll kind of show those while we're doing it. So kind of start with the power rankings of the classes, and then kind of work our way into the archetypes. So what we see right now is Paladin, Warlock at the top. Not surprising, right? Of course, the actual numbers that come down a little bit. It used to be like 57%, 58%, like those kind of numbers. And then it used to only be Paladin and Warlock at the top, and then nothing else above 50. Now we see Druid up above 50 now too. So I think it's Druid that's been eating away at those, the percentages from Paladin and Warlock. And now we see basically Druid up in that top tier also. Mage's moved up a little bit. Warriors moved up a little bit since the last time I did this pulse, which was like 2-3 days ago. And then Hunter's like fallen down. Like the days of, the odd Hunter and just those initial days where Hunter was seeing success are pretty much long gone. As well as the Shutterwalk. As we have Shutterwalk here on the show, but doesn't mean he's any good. So we have Shaman at the very bottom here. So Gaara, anything surprising here for you?
I mean, the biggest deal that I see here is definitely how close these percentages are. I think this is what makes this expansion field so great. If you compare Hunter to Paladin, that's only 8% if you think about it. That's not such a huge deal. Yes, it is, but then again, it isn't. And I'm pretty sure you can still make good Hunter decks.
Yeah.
That can compete. They can still beat Warlocks and Paladins and like these top classes. And yeah, I mean, Shaman is not a big surprise to me. From what I've seen on Reddit, everyone thinks that Shaman is like the most broken deck in the game and it has to be nerfed. And how can Blizzard make this work and allow this and 10,000 upvotes and whatnot? And I mean, as it turns out, it's not such a good deck. I think the problem was like, that this guy's Toast actually climbed to Legend with a very high win rate with Shadowshock Shaman. And he called the deck 100% win rate. And he actually had a very high win rate. So there was like this huge hate, but it's mainly towards the mechanic of Shadowshock, honestly. I don't know if you can fix that at all. It just takes forever, basically. The way how you interact with Shadowshock now is you close the game client and then you relog, and then basically the animation stops and you get the win or the loss. But yeah, not too surprising. Again, these percentages are so close together.
Yeah, they are.
As you can see, Rogue and Mage, it's like 0.1%. So basically,
well, look at Warrior and Priest. Like 4 to 7 is literally 0.6%. I mean, these are all basically the same. 4, 5, 6, and 7 are basically all the same.
Or like top 3. If you compare them, it's like 1% difference. It can change tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, and this is in flux. I mean, this is like what it looks like today. Like literally, about 2 hours ago, well, maybe about 3 hours ago. Like that's kind of when I ran the numbers and changed all these things and posted the article. So yeah, these things are in flux. I mean, Mage is up though. Arrows are based on just what from my previous pulse, so it's not really indicative of what's trending up right now. I think what's trending up right now, I think Rogue is trending up a little bit right now. Just because of some of the things that we've seen with Druid and just Rogue does well against like Q-Block and some of the Druid decks. So we'll talk about the decks specifically in a second, but that was kind of interesting to see the power rankings right now. It's going to be a long time before Shaman gets out of the gutter. Like there's literally no good decks for Shaman right now. Like
kind of like what I
hasn't showed
was
up
predicting.
at all. Yeah. So
Shaman is very hit or miss.
It's not even hit or miss. It's just miss right now. Like, let's be honest. Like, there's nothing going on right now.
If the Shadowshock deck was actually good, then it would be like oppressive. But it turned out to be really bad. And
I mean,
nothing else.
That's kind of like how I was thinking of it. Like, I'm surprised they made that card because it's either going to be oppressive or it's going to be terrible. And it's okay if it's terrible, if it's like a meme type of card. But I feel like the class didn't really get much else, like it was all riding on that card. And hopefully we come up with some stuff. I don't think I'm not giving up hope completely on Shaman, but this first week, like nobody's come up with anything that's consistent yet, clearly with a 41.9% win rate right now. Let's take a look at popularity here. So, because I have a chart that actually shows the popularity too. So this kind of tells you in the past pulse, in the past reports I did here, we saw like a difference between the win rates and the popularity. You would just think that all the all the classes that win a lot are going to be the most popular, right? But that wasn't the case in the first week. The first week we had Shaman like number 1 and 2, and Paladin was way down there. Paladin was like number 7 in the first 2 days. And then now obviously, people clearly like to win. So they obviously started playing Paladin and it kind of zoomed up there. But now, you kind of see Rogue here. So Rogue is obviously getting more popular too. And so I think that might reflect a little bit more on the win rates, next time we do this run. But you see Shaman's dropped completely off now. Like it's near the bottom now. And then Hunter's starting to lose some steam too, but it's a little bit slower. People are still playing Hunter though. It's just, it's just slowly going down like, a few points of percentages each time. Any surprises here for you?
Yeah, it's definitely crazy to see that people still play more Shaman than Warrior, because I feel like Warrior is significantly better than
Yeah,
Shaman.
it
It's
is.
like way more good archetypes, but still people still like to play that Shadow Shock.
It is, but look at the win rate. The win rate's, I guess the win rate of Warrior is like a lot better. You're right. Yeah, people just don't like
But
Warrior. I mean, I think it's mostly because the Warrior, there's nothing that new in the Warrior. Like it's either just minion tempo with the rush thing, or it's all a lot of the same, right? Yeah, even with the new cards, it's just the same kind of play style. I think that's probably the reason why a lot of people haven't dove into Warrior yet.
I don't feel like that any of the big streamers are playing Warrior. A lot. I've seen so many play Druids actually. Spiteful Druid and the new Cube Druid seem to be the most popular stream
It's because they're
decks.
good. That's
Yeah.
why. Streamers generally like to win on stream too, except for a few. But yeah, so these aren't.
I'm
I
a bit
guess.
surprised by Priest actually.
Yeah.
I'm facing
Low or
very few
high?
Priest.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I think it's too high actually.
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like Warrior is even stronger than Priest right now. I haven't found a good Priest deck yet.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Spiteful Priest is not bad, but more people are playing Spiteful Druid. But yeah, that is definitely surprising.
Yeah, keep into account this. All these stats are coming from ranks 10 up to Legend, so it's a pretty wide range here. But just generally wanted to give you guys just some kind of scope on how everything looks here. Top 5 decks. So actually, I have a better view of this. Let me just bring this up. So top 5 decks that we're seeing right now, and what I did with this isn't like just the top 5 decks period, because the top 5 decks period would be like 4 even paladins right now. So I kind of grouped them, into like, just one representative deck in the top decks. One representative for each archetype that are in the top decks here. So we've got even paladin starting things off. We've seen odd paladin. It's clearly not on this list. So odd paladins dropped off a little bit. It used to be even and odd, like right next to each other. Why is that, Gaara? Like, why are we seeing, what was considered the strongest deck in the first few days just completely gone now?
I think the 2 strongest cards Paladin has are Call to Arms and Sunkeeper Tarim.
Mm-hmm.
And it really shocked me that Odd Paladin was even that popular, because it doesn't play those 2 cards. And this, for me, it's no surprise that all the even Paladin decks are performing so well, just because all of them play Call to Arms. Different versions, different minions of Call to Arms. But yeah, Sunkeeper Tarim is such a powerful card. It's insane. And I think the Silver Sword, like is such an underrated weapon.
Yep.
It's ridiculously powerful. It's like you will always get very out of, it's like an insane win condition. And yeah, I'm not so, it's much harder to play against this deck, or like outvalue this deck, or just destroy this deck. Against the Odd Paladin, you clear it twice, you know what to expect. Like, there's a lot of really weak cards in that deck. And this deck, if you look at the list, it just plays powerful cards. So yeah, I'm really not surprised.
Yeah, and in this deck, even though it seems like the hero power isn't quite as strong, it fills its mana gaps like really, really well too. And there's a little bit of early pressure in this deck too. So it accomplishes, or it's more well-rounded, than the Odd Paladin. And I think right now you're seeing all these taunts appearing, and people able to actually rip away tempo from the Odd Paladin, with these newer decks. And that's why you see like these druids actually starting to become successful, or be able to really swing the meta, is because of that. It's the Odd Paladin that's taking the hit. That's why paladins come down a little bit. The even paladin's still crushing right now, so it's doing just fine. We got Spiteful Druid next, which has been sitting at the top for probably the last 4 days too. This deck is, there hasn't been, I don't know, too many modifications. This version has a few little interesting things in it, but I think the biggest thing probably is the fungals have been added, just to establish whatever kind of lead it has, going into the fungal turn. But what are your thoughts? Yeah, anything stick out here with Spiteful, or any this new rendition of it?
I expect the win rate to drop from this deck once people get more comfortable with the list. I feel like a lot of people are getting blown out by MC Tech. Like when I firstly played against it, I also got blown out by MC Tech. That basically everyone runs double MC Tech in that list, which is definitely new. And it's just extremely powerful. Also, the Leroy is a little bit new. You have a little bit more reach with this deck. It's just overall a very powerful deck, but I think once you learn to play against it, the deck doesn't have much more than the Spiteful power turn and maybe like the the Grand Archivist. Those are definitely the 2 power turns. And if you look at the list, besides those 2 very powerful turns, the deck just plays like, bunch of small minions, which you can easily deal with most decks. And once you play around MC Tech and you are prepared for those big turns of the Spiteful Druid, I think the win rate of the deck will drop. But it's now just a safe play on ladder for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely different versions of this. This one probably is a little bit more of a tweaked version because there's Flappy Bird in this, which is a flex spot, and even some people don't even play Lich King. I mean, there's a few things that have been modified in this one, for probably specific matchups. But again, I just took the one that was the highest win rate, just to kind of show you something a little bit different here. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the Spiteful play is obviously the biggest thing. It just relies on chips, and then all of a sudden the big play at Spiteful, and then hopefully they can kind of finish out after that. The Grand Archivist turn, it's been hit or miss for me. Like, I guess it's probably true in the Priest too, but for me, it's basically a card generator, right? That's kind of what you're using it for. But I kind of wish I had another threat, some kind of value threat, to finish games with. So, yeah. But anyways, yeah, this is the one that's kind of winning, the most right now. There's some other ones that are like 58 and 57%. Quest Rogue is the next thing that we see here, and I think we've seen the rise of this because it does well against Q Block, and especially at the top, like the top of Legend. And then this deck does well against the Taunt Druid, which we're about to talk about too. It has a crazy win percentage against the Taunt Druid. It's like super high if you look at the archetype matchups. But yeah, do anything stand out in this Rogue deck? I think there's like maybe one new card here, which is is it the Vish? Where is it? It's Vicious Scalehide. Vicious Scalehide, yeah. Which is nice. That Vicious Scalehide is lifesteal. So it's rush and it's lifesteal. So it lets you actually heal immediately and actually remove something a lot of times immediately, and maybe even get 2 for 1 for that guy.
I mean, I expected this archetype to die out, maybe because I was hoping for it to die out. Like, I really hate playing against this deck in general. Because it lost so much. It lost the Ferryman, it lost the Coldlight Oracle, the quest was nerfed, we lost patches, all the charges. You feel like this deck lost so much that it's still playable. It's actually kind of unbelievable. But someone made it work. I forgot who it was, but they're utilizing the Vicious Scalehide as a stabilizer, and it works really well. Like, even against aggressive decks, usually you're able to finish the quest, you're down to 5 HP, and then you get these 5/5 chargers, and you can bounce them back, and you stabilize so quickly. It really goes instantly, then you suddenly lost the game. So the deck seems still very viable, very powerful, and I don't like to play against this deck at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people it feels kind of like single player like type of deck. This is the type of deck that's going to be played a lot. You'll see it a bunch in events. On ladder, I think you'll be inconsistent, so you'll see it in moments in the meta, and then it'll disappear, and then you'll see it again because it's easy to counter this deck, and that's why I don't have a problem with this deck.
Because, I agree. I agree because I think the power level of this deck is fine right now. It doesn't feel that oppressive, especially without Coldlight Oracles.
For sure. Yeah, but Sonya and Zola, they kind of make up for some of the bounce that we lost, with the last retiring or the reset. So this card, I feel like this deck is still feels like the same power level it used to be, whenever it was viable. And it's kind of good. It just like literally popped up in the meta all of a sudden, and it's just like, like the last 2.5 days, it just suddenly appears, and it's like 59.7 win rate. It's like crazy. And that is because it has like a 75% win rate against the Taunt Druid, which has become like the hot deck, I think, in the last probably 2 days, 3 days now. I think in the very beginning of it, we literally saw people posting like amazing win percentages, like 80% win percentages, crazy things like that. And now it's, I think people are starting to react to it. So you're seeing it come down a little bit, but it's still, it's at still like almost 59% here, so it's still really good. And yeah, this deck, has all the attributes of what I would classify as a very powerful deck. It's got the value for days at the end of the deck if you want. It's got taunt to help with, protecting against aggro, and it's got the mana cheat. Like these are all Q block like qualities, and of course there's cube involved in this one too. So this is cube taunt druid instead, which is kind of funny now that we mention it. But Gaara, did this catch you by surprise, this deck?
Not really. Like I was actually playing this before the expansion when nobody played, when it was hipster.
Yeah.
And because Hydronox felt too slow without Naturalize, so that combination is kind of like existing for a while now, I would say, just that nobody played it because we play different decks. I'm kind of surprised that so many people are playing this deck. But I think, again, this deck seems fine how it is, because you can definitely counter it. There's different ways of countering it.
It's called Skulking Geist. It's like a one-card counter, yeah.
Is super strong against it, but also like what is super cool is to see that a lot of people are taking Tinkmaster in their control decks just because you get a beast.
What?
And when a beast dies, then it's a 50-50 if you get Hydronox back. Right. And that's a huge deal if you don't resurrect Hydronox. It's like game winning. Yeah. And it's really a legit, like you can take out the Lich King, let's say. It doesn't matter if you get Devils or the Chicken, both are beasts. So you took out the biggest taunt, and it's only 50-50 if you get the Hydronox back. And then you have the Skulking Geist as well, right?
Yeah.
And this deck, as you said, you can counter it with Quest Rogue. There's all sorts of different decks. But this deck also is a lot of fun to play yourself.
Oh, it's super fun. Like I think we're going to do this one actually for Deck of the Week this week, because it's incredibly fun. And I mean, this is like one of the first decks I started with. Like I definitely started with the more of the grinder version of this deck and kind of worked my way up to this. And I kind of discovered most of this deck by myself. Like I didn't really look at what everybody else is doing, just because I wanted to kind of be in my own little laboratory, trying to figure it out. So it was actually really cool to see that other, people like RDU and other folks were kind of like doing the same thing, but obviously a little bit more refined than my version. But for those of you listening, and those of you wondering, like listening and can't see the decks and stuff, I'll provide all the links, like in the descriptions and the notes for the show this week. But the big place for this is, like Gaara was talking about, Naturalize with Hydronox. It's like the only way to really trigger Hydronox like immediately. Otherwise, it can get polyed or hexed or things like that. And that's why people are playing Geist. It's just to kill Naturalize, force you to actually have it on the board and then risk losing it, and that sort of thing. It's fine if it gets silenced, to be honest. Like it doesn't even matter if it gets silenced, because you can actually Carnivorous Cube it, because that's what it runs that in this deck too. So, a lot of times you'll see things like the Witching Hour, which brings back a beast, will bring back Hydronox because it's a beast. And then you can just do whatever you want with it. You can cube it. You can do all kinds of silly things with it. So, again, the plays are amazing. I mean, you can get like 4 Hydronox. Hydronoxes or Hydronox. I don't even know what the plural of Hydronox is, but you can get that much, value from it. So you're talking about 4 board refills with taunts, and these taunts are like 3 6s and 3 5s and 8 8s, 4 8s. So pretty strong in terms of refilling the board. So yeah, I mean, it got popular because it's pretty versatile. It does well against different types of decks. It doesn't struggle too hard against any deck, except for Mage. I think right now Mage is doing really well because of the polymorph and just people running Geist and that sort of thing. All right, Tempo Rogue. Okay, this one surprised me. I didn't actually think that Tempo Rogue had any great matchups right now, but apparently it does have some good matchups and the matchups happen to be really popular decks, archetypes right now. So yeah, anything about the Tempo Rogue? I mean, there's nothing too surprising here. Hench Clan Thug is a new card that's turned out to be everything that we expected from it. Super strong, crazy strong at times. It's like out of control at times. But anything else surprise you here?
It's like maybe that you play the Fungalmancer instead of Scalebane, because you played Scalebane in the deck. But the main reason for it was to counter like Dragon Fire Potion, and that doesn't exist anymore. That is like a really big difference, I would say. But besides that, the deck feels like the old Kaliseth Rogue with Agent Squire instead of Patches and Swashbucklers. It's it doesn't really surprise me to see it back, because nobody plays Golakka crawlers. You don't play pirates. You don't really get countered. Like the main way how this deck was countered was Golakka crawler, and it was good versus other aggressive decks. And this really shows this is not even like the most popular aggro deck, and this is performing very well. Like rank 1 on Asia right now is again Miracle Rogue, which is also very crazy. And then you see Quest Rogue, and then you see Test Tempo Rogue, and then you see like this odd rogue that most people are playing.
Yeah, or odd rogue too. Lots of rogues right now. Yeah,
and then again a careless rogue. It's just the decks are all over the place, and I'm pretty sure tomorrow there will be 10 new decks as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can tell you for a fact, just looking at the stats, like when I just pulled up like the top 100 decks, I mean there's a lot right now that are performing really well. You just only hear about the really popular ones or the ones the streamers are playing. But there's a lot going on, and that's kind of why it's exciting. There's Tempo Rogue back in the old meta was like super strong, right? Obviously really great against the Priest, or at least that matchup was always exciting to watch. But there was like nothing else on that kind of level tempo wise, right? Now we actually see other decks that are on that same level of tempo. So it's just really about just how the certain cards actually match up against certain our archetypes or certain classes. So I think that's what's kind of interesting about it. And over time, we'll see which tempo decks ends up, being better. Like, is Paladin better than Tempo Rogue? Like kind of comparing the speeds of it at different stages of the game. It's really, really interesting. But yeah, so Tempo Rogue rounds out the top 5. And, I think it's pretty interesting in terms of what we saw here. I've got the archetype popularities here too, but you can go to here. I'll link this. I'll link the HS Replay, meta page for you guys to look at, so you can get a better look at all the archetypes and how they kind of round up. But right now, I feel like we're seeing a true settled meta that's been responded to. Which was the Paladin Warlock. The odd even Paladin and the Q block really establishing that first meta. And now we've seen the response to that. And then now we're seeing the beginnings of the next response, to what we've seen. So it's good. It's definitely great. It's only a week's time we're starting to see this happen. So, hopefully we can continue this for another several weeks. At least get a month out of this, where it's still like really.
I'm pretty sure this will be ongoing, and it will be. It actually is going to start to become crazy with the first tournaments, because the tournament after the next tournament will be a response to the first tournament. And this will really shake everything up. I'm pretty convinced. Yeah. So
that's definitely going to be good. So yeah, links both those links in the chat there for you guys to check out. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is that obviously we're part of HS Replay, and one of the cool things that is on HSReplay.net is that you can be a premium subscriber and you can unlock literally everything on the site. So we wanted to do things. We should have done this like a little bit ago. It's just I didn't really think about it until now, so I apologize for that. But we wanted to do some giveaways with 1 month free premiums. So the way you're going to enter that, guys, is go to or just follow ValueTownGG and HSReplay.net, and all the folks that either follow it or follow it for the first time, or I guess folks that are already following. I didn't think about that. How do the folks that are already following enter this? Okay, at least follow the 2 right here, and then we'll maybe shoot us a message, like maybe give us a question or something like that for the show next week, and then we'll enter you into the giveaway, which we'll select in the next day or so. We'll let some of the listeners get a chance to enter it into the giveaway too, and then I'll select 3 people to win 1 month free premiums, so you guys can check it out. Also, one other thing too is that we're giving away 60 packs, just free packs. Super easy to enter that. Just type exclamation giveaway right now in the chat, and you'll see the link to that. Again, I'll put this in the description. You'll get the link to this. There's like various ways to enter, and the winner will get 60 free the Witchwood packs. But we'll alter it depending on what you want. But for right now, we're advertising it as the Witchwood packs. So yeah, I want to give some stuff away to you guys. So definitely make sure you guys participate in that and let us know. Any other ideas you think would be really, really cool. Okay, so let's talk about some of the cool decks maybe we've seen. So we talked about meta, seen some of the shifts, but what are some cool decks, Gar, that you've been able to play and try out this week? I think I've got Dragon Pally first. So why don't we talk about that first?
All right, Dragon Paladin. First, it started off as a meme. I tried to write down every possible Paladin archetype of the new expansion, and one of them was Dragonadin. And I started off with Control Aggro, Control Dragon Paladin, and it was performing really well for me. I had 75% win rate with it when I stopped playing. And someone linked me. This was like a request of my stream today. It was Aggro Dragon Paladin, and oh boy, it was even performing better than Dragon Control Paladin. So,
oh my God,
like two complete random archetypes, and they're both performing really well. I think, the main reason for that is just, people don't know with the very unfamiliar with the list. Obviously, when you face a Paladin now, you expect odd Paladin or even Paladin, and then suddenly it's neither of them, and it's still an aggro Paladin, and then you really don't know what to expect. And this Cathedral Gargoyle is just performing so strongly. It's the strongest 2-drop in the game.
So
if you can make it work.
Cathedral is, okay, let me pull it up here. It is, for those of you who don't remember, it's a 2-mana 2/2 battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, gain taunt and divine shield. So it's like, shielded mini bot at 2, which is crazy good. Yes.
And I faced a Q block that had to attack it twice, like the Righteous Protector and then the Cathedral Gargoyle. It's like so sticky. It's like so annoying to get past it, and it's so powerful. It gets even more powerful if you play it in curve, right? If you have a 1-drop and then you play this and then you go Call to Arms, and it really like spirals out of control. It's just very cool, and I think what is a little bit underlooked is that you can play an aggressive dragon team deck with the Nightmare Amalgam. I'm a huge fan of that card. I've seen so many different decks. I think recently, I believe it was yesterday, I saw Adieu playing Murloc, Beast, Hunter, and he said it was his best performing deck because it's actually so crazy because you can play the Murloc Curve, you can play the Nightmare Amalgam on free and still Houndmaster it because it counts as
what's the Murloc Curve at neutral? Like,
you play Tidecaller into Rockpool Hunter, and then you can play Nightmare Amalgam, and you can play War Leader as well, but then you can Houndmaster the Amalgam because it counts as a Murloc and as a Beast. It's incredibly powerful.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. The Houndmaster on the Amalgam is good. I thought Amalgam was going to be great. Like when we were reviewing it, it's just one of those things where it's like once it crosses the threshold of people playing, the hate cards, then it's in trouble, right? Because it immediately gets like destroyed by any hate card. So as long as it's like, under the radar, Amalgam is amazing. Like it's an enabler for everything, right? And the fact that it's a 3/4 that never makes it bad. It's always solid at worst.
And since it's such a niche deck, very few people play hate cards.
Yeah.
You barely see any. I've not faced any Golakka crawlers just because people don't play any pirates. And do you wanna hate on Murlocs? Because Murloc Paladin again is also not a real archetype right now.
Some people are playing it actually. I think it's gaining a little momentum right now.
But nobody runs. It's not worth to run Hungry Crab for
no, not right now. It's not. Yeah, you're gonna whiff most of the time.
Yeah, you can get away with playing this card, Nightmare Amalgam. It's very strong. So usually what you're aiming for is 6 or 7 dragons, and with Scalebanes and Amalgam you have already 4. And if you play Fairy Dragon, you already have 6 dragons, and you play very decent, statted, aggressive dragons, and it's amazing. You can basically play this in any deck because those are neutral cards, and it's very cool how many different versions of Aggro Paladin you can play. It's amazing. It's very cool.
So the Life Fuse Stegodon, is it that good in this deck? I feel like there's not enough consistency to that. Like I would figure you would probably want to.
You definitely won me games.
Really?
Because because you just. If you go with Lost in the Jungle into Hero Power, and then you go either Call to Arms and then Lights to Stegodon, and if you go +3 attack, that's so much pressure. That just kills your opponent if it's a slower deck. I think you can definitely replace it and play a spell.
I guess it's got Vine Cleaver too. Yeah, I guess Vine Cleaver can after you equip Vine Cleaver, it could be super good too.
Also, sometimes you get the dudes from the unidentified mall, so you have more tokens.
Yep.
It's
just endless. Endless value for Paladin. It's crazy, man.
You can definitely play around, and I feel like most lists are not refined yet, even the strongest list. I wouldn't even say Taunt Druid. like you saw just recently, people went away from Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah,
I think
I dropped
yesterday
one.
people were.
I dropped one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yesterday people were playing like one Ultimate Infestation, and
Mhm.
today people are dropping. So tomorrow the list will be more refined for sure.
Right now, it's just like, how can we figure out how to kill Hydronox other than naturalize? I think that's probably the next solution to. I've been trying like alchemists and all kinds of things, but yeah, kind of getting back to this. Yeah, this looks pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in this deck, so that's probably, you know, I can just generally sense that there probably, you know, could be some refinement, but you know, all of these things that are in the deck are strong. So even Crystal Lion, I feel like every time that card comes down, it's always in a terrible spot for me. I'm just like, oh god. You know, like back in the Silver Hand Paladin days, it was just kind of like, okay, you know, it comes down after they've played a bunch of small things, and you know, it's generally not too bad to handle. Now it comes down when you know, like a Cobalt Scalebane's already down, you know, or something's already, and it's just like, oh man, this is pretty tough to deal with. So yeah, I feel like Crystal Lion's gotten better in this expansion too. But overall, yeah, this is definitely a really neat deck. You played some other ones too, like haven't you tried Hunter or something crazy like that? Let
Yes.
me see. Oh, whoops, my bad. Where is it? Okay, let me pull up the Hunter. Let's see which one I have of that. You've got some pretty cool ones. I think the one with you were talking about with hold on, let me grab it. With the Dire Frenzy, right? Wasn't that a pretty good one? Yeah, let me.
The craziest one was Even Hunter, and I was like shocked that that could even be a deck that you can build. Mostly, I'm actually thinking, okay, this deck has to be bad, and then I'm playing it, and I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. And it was very similar with a deck like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way in hell this deck can work. And then you play it, and then you see like all the synergies come together, and then you're like, and then
yeah, that's what's cool. It's like you find a lead and then you just kind of go down that lead, you know what I mean, and experiment with it. That's what I love about like this time right now, is that, you know, you and then you end up with this deck that looks really ugly to a lot of other people, but you know, there was actually logic behind it, you know. So
yeah,
it's really cool that way. But yeah, this Dire Frenzy deck that we're looking at right now, it's not quite an even deck, but you know, there's actually quite a few 3-drops because 3-drops are so powerful for Hunter. But yeah, let's talk about some of the big plays here. You know, it's got the traps, it's got let's see, the Spellstone, obviously because of the trap. It's got Katharina, and I think you got Witchwood Grizzly in there because of it. It's got Dire Frenzy, of course, like I mentioned. You know, and just your standard things like Bow and Deadly Shot and Kill Command and Rexar. So yeah, talk about some of the big plays with this deck.
Okay, one of the cool things is that against aggressive decks, I would say Lesser Spellstone is still one of the best win conditions you can have in the game.
Yeah.
And the traps you set up are also good versus aggro. You go Wandering Monster and you go Explosive Trap, which are both very good versus most of the aggressive decks. And then if you coin out a Spellstone, that's usually enough to just beat most of the aggressive decks. So you have that going for you. And the Spellstone is not even bad versus a lot of the control decks. It's especially good against the even Paladins, but also against aggressive Paladins. And Paladin, as you saw earlier in the stats, is one of the most popular decks right now. Also, it's very powerful against Druids. You know, it's good versus Powerful Druid, it's good versus, because they can't really remove it. So you have your very powerful anti-aggro win condition, but against control, Rexar beats actually most control decks. Like, it single-handedly destroys every control warrior. Rexar is so much more powerful in this expansion than before, with all the beasts that rotated out.
Amazing. The keywords for the new, you know, beasts make Rexar super good. Like, you put Lifesteal and Rush and Poisonous, and I mean, you're putting at least 2 extremely good keywords together every time you hero power. So, you know, whatever you get is going to either heal you or kill just whatever's in front of you. So it's yeah, I agree, man. I think Rexar got a huge boost actually from the beasts that they included.
And also his hero power is pretty good versus token Paladin. You know, it's like it's just a good, very powerful card, right?
Yeah.
And so you have that going, which can single-handedly win you the game. And if you don't have that, you can just go for the Katharina. And Katharina is like the best 8-drop in the game. It's stronger than Tyrion. It's crazy how powerful Katharina is.
Stronger than Tyrion? Wait.
Yes, for sure. No, just
Holy
look at the manual.
smokes. I mean,
If you pull a Hyman, which is the strongest 6-drop in the game,
I get
and then
it.
definitely pull another Hyman, and you have a 6/6 body, that is
Yes.
definitely stronger than Ethereal. Like it's not even close.
There's only good
It's that-
pulls, because you've built this deck,
it's-
so there's only 2 Grizzlies and there's 2
Yeah.
Hymains. So
But it gets really crazy when you start buffing something with the Dire Frenzy, and then you pull those minions with the Katarina that you buffed with the Frenzy.
Yeah.
Especially if it's the Witchwood Grizzly.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. So the Witchwood Piper, I forget, that's not a beast, obviously, right? So the Witchwood
No.
Piper would pull
a Grizzly against aggressive decks.
a Grizzly, okay. Because it pulls, what does it pull again? Like, I'm trying to remember.
At the lowest cost minion.
Lowest cost minion. Okay, so you could pull another Piper, potentially, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess that's a chance. So I guess you want to draw both before you really utilize that to the utmost extent. Okay, well, I'm excited. Yeah, I definitely want to give this a try because Dire Frenzy, man, you end up like having a buffed version of those big cards in your deck, and so when it comes down,
cool.
like what is that? They would be like a 6/15 or something like that for the Grizzly.
Yeah,
that'd be crazy. Man.
2 times.
Yeah, 2 times, right? Holy smokes! Yeah, so
it's super strong.
All right, I gotta try
so
that
fun.
for sure. Yeah.
Or you buff your Misha. Oftentimes you want to go curve, you go Animal Companion, then you go Dire Frenzy. When that dies, like getting like 7/5 Huffers out of the deck is also not too bad.
Yeah, tell us something we don't know, man. That sounds great, actually. Okay, well, this is a Hunter deck. I mean, I was staring at Hunter for a while, man, last night. Like, I had a Houndmaster Shaw up, and it was just like, oh, man, racking my brain to try to figure something out that was good with that. But this is definitely a cool approach. And I was telling you earlier, right, like before the show, that I feel like if you're trying to build a deck and you're trying to build a viable deck, it has to start with some kind of huge play. Like, you have to find a combination of cards that makes a giant play, not just like OTK stuff, like just some kind of huge swing turn. And then I think you build around that, then that's like a very good processes to try to come up with something good. So, clearly this one is the Katharina, and then you build around Katharina with the, Witchwood Grizzly and Savannah, and then you continue from there. And that's where you get like Witchwood Piper, right? And then the Dire Frenzy. So pretty cool. Yeah, the way Hunter's shaping up, being very spell heavy, is actually freeing up quite a bit from a deck building standpoint, or creating variety that I didn't foresee that was eventually going to happen. So definitely a good job, by the team in terms of doing that. Yeah, those of you tuning in late, Dr. J isn't here right now, so we've got Shutterwalk in his place, which I hope you guys enjoy, of course. All right. Was there one other deck that you wanted to show? I forget. It's not the dragon. Wasn't there a warrior of some sort that you wanted to? Or maybe not. Maybe that was like Dr. J. Dr. J has some kind of Gunspire warrior, which I really wanted to see, but unfortunately he's not here right now.
I think Tice played it on stream.
Oh, did he? Like, yeah. So why don't we talk about our most overrated and underrated cards? How about that? Okay. So overrated cards. You have the most obvious one, which is Shutterwalk. I mean, yeah. So
basically, for the past 7 days on Reddit, almost every most upvoted comment was, "How can Blizzard possibly allow this card being printed?" And the main reason for that was this guy's toast, on the very first or second day of the
very first day. It was the first hours of the
expansion.
Yeah,
he reached Legend with like 90% win rate with Shadowshock Shaman, and he abused a very nasty mechanic. He made his opponents rope their turns. So basically, he didn't go for an OTK. He just played so many different Battlecry minions that the point, like he played Mad Bomber, or a bomb, the 2-drop bomber. So basically, just so the opponent drops out, and then everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is broken!" And he called it the 100% win rate deck. And then
and for those of you who do not know what he's talking about, it's possible in the game that if you create like animations that are just sequenced and queued up, that you can have your opponent not even be able to take their turn, because when you end your turn, the counter for your opponent's turn starts at that time, which I've never understood why that is, but for whatever reason, it starts at that turn. So if your animations take 90 seconds, then your opponent doesn't even get to go. And that's kind of what happened. That's obviously one of the huge complaints against Shutterwalk, is that the animations are just way too long. And they're supposedly going to be speaking about Shutterwalk very, very soon here. And I have a feeling it has to do more with the animations, and just the time it takes. Actually, I think Dr. J might be around. We can see if we can get him in here. Wait. Oh no! Oh, actually, he's having car issues. Oh darn. Okay, we'll have to connect with Dr. J again sometime. But yeah. So the animations, I think, is probably going to be the thing that they speak about. I don't think the card itself. I mean, it's bad. There's nothing. I mean, unless they're going to make it better. I guess there's a chance they're going to make it better.
I don't think so.
But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're probably going to address the animation and just leave it as kind of a bad meme
by the
card.
Way,
yeah.
I want to go away from. I don't think the card is overrated. The card is super powerful.
Yeah.
It's insanely powerful. I mean, it wins you the game. It's one of the best possible win conditions you can have. Like you have a setup, a few card setup. The setup is very powerful actually. Like Saturday Night Chain Gang, the Life Drinker. Those are good cards that you play in the deck, which set up this OTK. And it's just that the overall power level of Shaman is too weak, and Shaman didn't get a lot of good cards, so the deck is really weak. But the card itself is really strong.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
I still give hope that people will figure out like a moderate way of doing it. Not so much OTK, maybe something in between. The crazy OTK we see right now, and just something that just gets extreme value from whatever battle cry. We've got so many battle cries in this game. And been wanting to write like a Shutterwalk article for a while now. I think we eventually will. But there's just so many possibilities that whether different levels of value, right? And I think that Shutterwalk 6/6, I mean, you literally only have to cast one good battle cry, and it's actually worth a 9-drop, right? So it doesn't take much to actually be getting extreme value from it. It's just when you're going the crazy, like what we've been doing, going with trying to do 100 damage or some crazy, just infinite combos, then yeah, that becomes harder to figure out. But I still hold out hope that there's something there for it. But again, it's like polarizing. It's either super good, I feel like right now, or it's just not good at all. So I think Dr. J might hop on Discord here. Let's see if he does.
I'm actually here.
Hey, what's up, dude? Hey,
how's it going? I'm really sorry,
guys. It's okay,
I
man.
apologize for that.
It's car troubles, man. You can't predict it sometimes.
I got there at 11 o'clock EST, and they told me to take I just need to get an inspection. They were like, it'll only take about an hour or two. I was like, oh, that's fine. And then 5 hours later, while I'm still sitting there, my phone dies. Find out that it did not take an hour or two.
Yeah. Well, your penalty is you've been Shutterwalk the entire time so far, so on the stream. But we've been talking. We're talking about overrated cards right now. So Gaara picked Shutterwalk, and I think Shutterwalk was yours too, right?
Yeah, Shutterwalk was my overrated card as well.
Yeah. So we talked about just just obviously people talking about in the first few days that it was overpowered. And what are your thoughts on Shutterwalk right now? Like, and the fact that they're going to address something very, very soon about it. What do you think that's going to be too?
So I think one of the reasons I put Shutterwalk as an overrated card was because although it has this potential to be just mind-blowing and very, very strong in what it does, so in future sets, for all we know, it could become more of a problem card. But the current issue right now is it reminds me of a Quest Mage-esque deck, in that Quest Mage has this insane combo that basically ends the game on the turn that it completes it, but it is very hard to get to that game state where you can achieve that. Mm-hmm. And Shutterwalk, maybe it does it a little bit easier and has some other different tools and is better in other matchups than other ones. But at the end goal, it just has a really poor win rate because it's very hard to get to that final combo that you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question, right now, I feel like the way the Shutterwalk decks are built is it's like all removal or taunt, and then just the battle cry sequence, right, to win the game, right? And the sequence matters too. So it adds like another challenge, right, to to the win condition for this. So I think the real question will be is if there's another type of win condition where Shadow Walk isn't, it's like one of the win conditions. It's not the only win condition, so that's kind of an attribute of a lot of decks, right? Most of the strong decks have multiple ways to win. There's obviously a primary way to win, but there's always like these secondary ways to win. And Shadow Walk, and as well as Quest Mage at times too, was always like that. So do you guys anticipate seeing something like that eventually? Does Shaman have anything right now that could be a win condition?
I tried to play the other possible Shaman archetypes, which are like Elemental Shaman or Even Shaman. Like this is what they tried to push with this expansion, and oh boy, does decks feel weak, especially the Even Shaman. Yeah. It just feels like a basic Shaman deck basically, without 1-drops. Just like Shaman benefits the least with the upgraded hero power as well, because like choosing a specific totem or playing a totem for 1 mana is not very good if you compare it to the odd Paladin or even Paladin. It's just Shaman is so weak overall, whatever type of deck you want to build it. Like all Shaman has going for it right now is the Shadow Walk and abusing this crazy mechanic.
See, I think that's a problem, right? Because Shaman isn't that great at removing stuff. Like
I also hate.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hated they really nerfed the Hex. I like it still doesn't make sense. Like this is now 6 months ago or something. I really feel like when you want to play like a big Shaman or like this, you can play like the how would you call it, Snow Fury Giants, the Spellstone Giant Shaman Control Shaman deck. It really hurts you so much that the Hex costs 4 mana. Still, like if you want to build.
Even if it costs 3, I don't think it would. It would not.
But
make
it would be definitely much better.
It'd be better, but how does that help? That still doesn't help Shaman's win condition. There's still no win condition for Shaman.
No, you can. I mean, the Spellstone is a win condition. Like if you play Snow Fury Giant with Ancestral and Spellstone,
okay, I'll give you that. Yeah.
It's just to get there is so hard for Shaman, like harder than any other class. It's kind of like if Hunter had that.
Right. I played the Overload Shaman for a while. Was trying that out, with just the zaps and the Spellstone, with the Snow Fury and the ancient ancestral spirits, just to keep bringing back the giants, and copying them. But again, like the removal is just so weak and inconsistent against the aggro decks that I just can't live. Like it's so hard.
And another thing that they tried to push with this expansion is actually the Bok Reaper and the Hagata, and I played that as well.
Bok Shaper, yeah.
Bok Shaper and Hagata. First of all, Bok Shaper is way too expensive.
It's bad.
It's like
it's really bad.
It's so hard to get value out of it. And the worst part is that Hagata and Bok Shaper, like they kind of have synergy in a way, but they don't.
Not really.
It's so hard. I mean, that's like the different kind of value deck you want to play, and it's so bad. It's so hard to make it work. Like one card requires you to play minion to get spells, and the other card requires you to play spells to get minions. It's really, really bad.
I feel like that's like the design team trying to debate us into building that sort of Shaman with a Bog Shaper and a Agatha.
Oh, and Free Shaman didn't get anything. So basically, that was like a one-time thing.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was weird. I really thought Hagatha, when she got like announced, was gonna have some kind of Frost Nova-esque effect or some kind of like freezing ability. I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna make Free Shaman maybe a thing. I mean, probably not.
Yeah.
But at least it's gonna be some support for it. And then they came out with that, and I was like, I still think Hagatha is a very strong card. And I think it has a lot of potential. I think the biggest issue right now is Shaman doesn't do anything better than any other class except for it has Shutterwalk. So what Gaara was saying is exactly right. It has nothing going for it right now besides the fact that it is Shutterwalk. Although I do think even Shaman has a lot of potential because the totems on turn 1, and like if we still had card like Thing from Below, then even Shaman would be pretty good, I think. I think the biggest issue with even Shaman is you can't run Bloodlust. And without Bloodlust, your totems effectively do nothing.
Well, even Odd Shaman, you definitely could make the argument that the double totem, like the double Silverhand Recruit, would make a huge difference for Shaman. Because I mean, then people might even consider playing the raid leaders, you know, in the storm, you know, the storm winds and stuff like that in it, because you're just going wide, right? And I mean, I've been waiting for them to recreate something that's like Thunder Bluff Valiant, you know, just something that just you know the
Like,
totally buffs them all. But
Shaman used to be like a synergy card class. You had like either a lot of totem synergy cards or overload cards, like with Trog and like Unbound Elemental. Like all these cards are missing. Like all these synergies. Like they really printed like a bunch of free Shaman cards like 2 expansions ago, and now like a bunch of, I don't know, like even Shaman, Hagat, like just a bunch of random cards. It's so hard to make it work.
Right.
In a way.
Right. No, it definitely is. So it's there's something there. It just might take another expansion. You know, like this expansion, there's just nothing. You know, there's nothing there, and like to add on to your point to Dr. J there with it not doing anything, you know, really super well. The removal is not one of the best. The heal is not one of the best. These are all control elements that Shudderwock needs. So both of those things are not one of the best. So
yeah. Unfortunately, I will say though, I did craft Golden Hagatha and Golden Shudderwock on release because I thought that deck was going to be absurd, and I still have faith in it. I still have hope in it. But as for now, Shudderwock is very very overrated.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. Okay, so my pick for overrated is Lady in White so far, because man, I've tried, dude. I don't even draw her. Like I feel like I draw her like 10% of the time, and it's like, you know, Priest right now doesn't have a ton of draw either, so it's probably right. That's probably about how much I should be drawing her, and even when I get her, it's just like it feels worse than obviously Keleseth. It's like by that time, do I really need like 10 10s, you know, and 11 whatever 8 8s and stuff? Like I feel like I'm either way behind or I'm just gonna win anyways. So yeah, this card was way worse than I thought it was going to be.
And another like side note about this card is like, because I also play this card, is like strong cards that you want to play in your priest decks are usually dragons, and a dragon you have to play right now is the Twilight Drake, and the Twilight Drake is such a bad synergy with this card.
It's so funny. You can have like a 1/9.
Yeah, it's like a 1/9. That's true.
So you actually make your deck worse, like in a way as well.
Yeah.
So it's not so good.
Yeah, it's just too slow. You know what I mean? Like the Twilight, the Divine Spirit Inner Fire works because you end up just like bursting them all of a sudden, right? In one turn. This is just like you just get value in your cards, and outside of Keleseth, which Keleseth, you know, it only works because it's so early. And then we had the bounce Keleseth, you know, type of plays with Rogue that really, really accentuated it. You know, late kind of cards like we saw with, what was it, Mistcaller, it just don't work. And I think Lady in White falls into the same boat. It's too late.
I also feel like the meta is not good for cards like this right now. Like you want to keep such a card in your starting hand, and most decks you face right now are really aggressive decks, like super hyper aggressive decks.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, then Priest will just not do well against them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's unfortunate. We'll see if maybe over time it ends up doing a little bit better. But yeah, so far I think those were the cards overrated. Let's talk about underrated cards. Let's talk about some good cards that are surprises for us. And we're gonna start with the crazy one, because like to eat dessert first. We got Black Howl Gunspire from Dr. J here. So 7 mana, 3/8, can't attack. Whenever this minion takes damage, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Tell me the goods, man. Like
I think a lot of people looked at this card and said this card is complete and utter trash. And I started playing with it, and now this is easily becoming one of my favorite cards, and I actually think it's not that bad. Like I think it's better than people gave it credit. So when I'm calling this like a underrated card, I'm saying like people said this was trash, and then I actually think it's playable. Yeah. That was my philosophy behind it. So I think where this fits in is some kind of control warrior deck or some kind of like fatigue warrior, because I built a fatigue warrior list that's goal was to beat up on mages, druids, rogues, and paladins. It still struggles with warlock and shaman because those decks they have something against you that you can't really do. And in those decks, basically the whole goal is you just remove everything, and you dead man's hand back some draw / some removal. You keep removing everything. And this card is really good in those matchups because you force them to use their removal early, or maybe let's say they Vile Spine a Acolyte of Pain so you don't draw, and then you slam this bad boy. And they're either going to want to silence it because they don't want their whole board to take 3 damage constantly, or they're going to find an awkward way to kill it, or they're just going to ignore it. And if they ignore it, you then go Warpath 5 times, and their whole board is just massacred, or you dealt like 15 damage face, and I think it's
That's
just
crazy.
absurd at times.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I mean, definitely I felt like there was potential for it to be just a board removal type of card. And it sounds like it is. It's definitely fun. I mean, I love the animation from it.
The animation is
it's
superb.
Awesome. Yeah, it's something a lot of fun. I want to play the bounce. Next time I see this card in Arena, I'm just gonna hope for Bouncing Blade, and then I just want to go nuts. I'm just gonna just record that interaction right there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But that's cool. Yeah, it's definitely a great, really cool card that is potentially underrated there. Let's see the next one. Actually, Gaara, you talked about it already. The Cathedral Gargoyle. Yeah. So that one, I mean, it really shouldn't have been underrated. I mean, this card is strong. I mean, you're gonna play in a dragon deck, so it's.
Yeah, the main reason why it is probably underrated is because people don't think Paladin has enough dragons. Or just in general, there was like this feeling that you can't really play dragons or like dragon synergy decks. But once you start building these decks, you realize quickly that you have enough dragons. You usually really just need 6 or 7 dragons in like. Again, I played today a control dragon paladin and an aggro dragon paladin, and both archetypes worked. And if you have such a deck, this Gargoyle is insane. It is still like the best 2-drop in the game. It is a mini bot with taunt, and the taunt is very relevant at protecting, like, in an aggressive deck, a Scalebane, for instance, or like a Knife Juggler in an aggressive deck. And against control decks, you have definitely cards you want to protect. It's just very, very strong.
I mean, Minibot was good at 3. This is good at 2. I mean, imagine it at 2. I mean, it's insane. Like, crazy good, right? So, Minibot was 3, right?
Minibot was 2.
Oh no, it was 2. I'm thinking of the healing thing. So Minibot was 2. That's why it's basically the same thing now. So it's good. Definitely showed it earlier in our Dragon Paladin that Gaara is playing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see this as more of a mainstay. I kind of wish Paladin had the dragon that's 5. The 5-drop that would reduce your next dragon to 0. That would be so good. Oh my god, that'd be so cool right now.
Make this card more consistent. I also think this card is like Gaara is saying, a little underrated. But I think most people, when they first evaluated it, or when they're still evaluating it now, they think about cards like Call to Arms, because Call to Arms is just absurdly powerful.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to pull this out. I mean, that's a lot of times Murloc Paladin was cutting one of the Hydrologists in the list, because if Call to Arms pulls out Hydrologist, it's like one of the worst pulls. But if this card goes off on 2, it's pretty nuts. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you fall
2
off
for
with
1. Guarantee 2 for 1. Yeah.
Then you call to Arms since you had it on 2 and 3. It's absurd.
Right. All right. My pick has been one that Warriors. I believe it's mostly been Warriors and pulling off, which is Phantom Militia. This card is way better than I thought it was. It's really annoying more than anything else, especially when I've been playing a lot of taunt druids and I've got 3 attacks and I can't kill these things. So it's really frustrating when they put 3 of them up there each time that they cast it. But yeah, I thought this card was, potentially trash, or maybe it was good in Arena and then that would be it. But I'm finding it's a pretty good. It feels a little bit like Spreading Plaguish, that kind of feel where it just kind of gets in your way and might take you 2 turns to get through each one of them. But yeah, what's y'all's experience with this card so far?
It's very good in the quest for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like also very important.
Oh yeah, because it triggers the counter too. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because you play it from hand.
Right.
It's not like Serenite Chain Gang. This card can count as free count minions for the quest, which is like absurd.
Yeah.
Multiple bodies on board. Yeah, it's just basically in that deck, honestly. And sometimes from Stonehill Defender, like a lot of people play Stonehill Defender Big Spell Mage.
Yeah.
Then you pick this oftentimes just because Mage has oftentimes no board presence, and then you have a lot of mana left because you don't want to play any Flame Strike or board clear or whatever. And then you just spam a bunch of Phantom Militias, which is also not too bad.
Yeah.
So definitely, yeah, not too bad.
This card is very versatile, and most versatile cards in like Hearthstone are just really powerful. And what Gaara picked up on a key point there is the Stonehill interaction. Is just picking this card up from Stonehill is really strong. Really, you weren't expecting to play 9 mana worth of 2/4 taunts, but I mean sometimes it comes down to the game state where you just do it. It's also really good in Quest Warrior. There's also a cute combination in, I believe it was some kind of Control Warlock, where it was like Meat Wagon Control Warlock, where you would get out Summoning Portal, and then this card costs 1 mana, and you would fill your entire board with Phantom Militias, and that was really cute. Another cool combo in the Summoning Portal deck, because I was playing it a little bit, because when I casted the Witchwood Invitational, there was Savitz and Dog brought this deck, and it was basically like a version of Q-Block. Then instead of Doom Guards, it ran Glinda Crowskin, it ran Meat Wagons and Summoning Portals. Right. And one of the coolest things I did is I beat a Q-Block player because I had 2 Summoning Portals on the board. I played Glinda Crowskin, and then I had 1 Summoning Portal and Glinda Crowskin, and I played 5 Gnome Fratus and burned 5 cards from their deck, and it was incredible.
What'd you burn? Like
a Mountain Giant, a Doom Guard.
Oh, that's brutal.
And then I think the other 3 were irrelevant, but I burned Mountain Giant and Doom Guard, and I felt so proud of myself.
Yeah, made the play, man. It's just like play achieved, kind of thing.
Yeah, I set it up. I said, all right, I'm going to keep playing this deck until I burn at least 5 cards with Gnome-Fratu, and then we can go play other decks.
See, that's what they need to do in Hearthstone. They need to create these achievements, these actual combo achievements. so all of us will try out these decks and try to pull them off. So anyways, Phantom Militia is pretty cool. I didn't really think about some of these applications, so that's really neat. The other one is something that came up in the Invitational, which was the Witch's Cauldron.
Yes.
And this card, this card, I mean, it's a little bit contradictory in terms of, like where it's good, because it's usually good in a very wide type of strategy. So like a Paladin, maybe even, Shaman to some degree, but generally something that's aggressive and tempo based. So you generally don't want to crash your guys into your opponent's guys, but I mean, it looks so easy. Like whenever, Savitz or whoever was playing off, it's just like guaranteed value. Like I feel like when you have those decks. So, and maybe one thing to look at it is, okay, for A, is it underrated? B, how do we compare this to like Cult Master? Like, should we just be playing Cult Master and drawing our own cards? That sort of thing. So yeah, what's y'all's thoughts on this?
I go first. Like, I don't know who was the first. Was it Galen who included this guy? I think it was Galen actually.
Yeah.
He reached
Either
rank
Gallon
1.
or Board Control is one of the 2.
Yeah, one of those guys.
Yeah. And they were like fighting for rank 1 legend. I actually watched both. Like Zalay was streaming it and Board Control, and they were both like fighting literally for rank 1. They were both like rank 2,
right? And
fighting for rank 1 legend with Odd Paladin. And this was like one of the biggest impact cards of the deck. This Witch's Cauldron, and it just felt insane. Like it refilled the hand with all sorts of good cards. And if you play against Q-Block, and then you suddenly have Hexes, Earth Shocks.
It's like Rockalar. It feels like Rockalar in a way, like the hunter weapon that just refills your hand with spells. It's kind of like that, man. It's crazy.
And it's kind of like barely out of reach, out of cards from like Hellfire, for instance. So, and it's annoying. You don't want to kill it, but you have to kill it because you have to kill so many other things as well. And that's the problem. It's like you usually don't want to spend any spell or removal cards on this card, and usually it already gave the opponent value.
Well, that poses a good question. Like, is tempo worth the value you give up for this thing? Because you have to figure it out. Because if you're hitting this thing, then you're obviously giving up tempo. Probably most likely to do that.
Yeah, so. And the one thing with this card though is the reason I'm going to go to the Cult Master thing. The reason I think it's slightly better than Cult Master is because when this card gets played, not only is it a turn sooner, so it curves out with the Odd Paladin's hero power, it's also that if you were playing Cult Master and you were drawing from your deck, you're not going to be drawing cards that can answer, say, Warlock's minions. But Witch's Cauldron gives you these added outs that typically you should not have in the form of Hex, Earth Shock. In the mirror match, there's things like Volcano and Lightning Storm. And it's just absurd, the different range of cards. Although there are, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of Shaman cards that you do not want to have.
Totemic Might.
You do not want to have Totemic Might. And I'm sure there's a couple other ones that you don't want to have. But this card gives you, any card that gives you outs you probably shouldn't have has typically been kind of powerful.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why they try to avoid crossover,
By the way, this really brings me back to the final of the Invitational. I think it was Firebit versus RDO, and he had the Witch's Cauldron on the
Yes, I was casting that game, and then I said Admirable is only out as Witch's Cauldron into Lava
Burst. Yeah.
And he draws the Witch's Cauldron, he plays it, takes the trade, and instantly snaps a spell face, but it was the 0 mana.
Little short, yeah.
Yeah, it was a 0 mana spell.
The zap, yeah, it wasn't a Lava Burst. That would have been pretty epic, though. It would have been an epic call for him to get that. So yeah, this one's a pretty interesting thing. I think this was really well designed. Making it 4 health, I think was super smart. Because I think in the past they would have made this 3 health, and then like nobody would ever play this thing. Because it's not as annoying.
Another thing about this card is that the RNG aspect of it doesn't feel so bad like other RNG cards, because it requires you to have a setup. Like, it's way harder to get value out of such a card than if it has a battle cry effect, right? You play a Swashbuckler on one, like, what do you do about it?
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel so bad.
So you guys see this being played in like a Paladin? Because it's the easiest to pull off in the Paladin. Something like an Odd Paladin. Or do you see it being, in something that's a little bit more moderate, so you're not going to be drawing like crazy, like you're just drawing a few cards?
I think for now we're only really going to see an Odd Paladin because no other deck can. So if you look at the various classes, Warrior doesn't spam the board. You have to look at the classes that have the potential to be either aggro decks or spam the board. Those classes include Shaman, Paladin, Hunter to a small extent, and maybe Rogue. In Rogue, it's more tempo-based and damage-based, so that's not going to happen. Same with Hunter. In Paladin, you can afford to because of the Odd Paladin's hero power. And then the closest other fit would probably be Shaman. But the biggest issue with Shaman is Shaman's just not powerful right now. And even if you have totems on the board, you have to have another enabler for the totems to kill themselves. Whereas in Odd Paladin, you just kind of throw the little dudes in the pot and you make Shaman spells. So... I think that's the biggest difference in why we'll only see it in Odd Paladin for now.
Actually, Baked made he says Druid. Like, Token Druid could potentially be something too.
That's a possibility as well.
Yeah.
The new Buzzard Unleash combo.
Yes.
Yes.
We miss it. Oh
Which
my
is
god.
Cauldron Unleash the Hounds.
Oh my god, that would be crazy.
All lava bursts.
All lava. And then buff it all. Yeah, no. That'd be crazy. So yeah, this has definitely been a fun surprise. I think this was like, this is the kind of card that we were kind of hoping would be something, and it's kind of cool that there might actually be some type of viable play to this card. Okay, I think somebody mentioned actually Glass Knight in the chat. Dalshiel. Yeah, I think Glass Knight performs pretty well in the even Paladin, just because of True Silver. But I haven't actually experienced it myself. Have you guys played any Glass Knight, the Paladin card?
I played it a lot, but I never felt like it feels like a decent card, but I never got value out of it. They double Divine Shield. It's just too hard to pull it off. It's like because the opponent will remove it or try to remove it,
right?
Or you will trade it off. It's like you need to have the True Silver, but usually you have to play him first because you want to get rid of the Divine Shield first. Like, this seems like a scenario that happens very rarely, and you don't really have other healing tools usually in Paladin. It's like Uta or something, which is like, way.
Yeah, it seems like it would be better in a mid-range format where it's harder to remove, or your opponent has to waste like their entire turn to remove. But for now, it's just like if you're going up against Odd Paladin, the hero power just instantly gets rid of the shield, and they probably have an easy kill on it.
Mhm.
Against Hunter, they probably just ignore it. They don't really care because they're just trying to burn face. Warlock's not going to have an issue with it. Just a lot of these classes aren't going to have an issue with it.
Yeah.
But it's still just a solid statted card with a good effect. And then, of course, with I think it works best in the Even Paladin because there's the Vicious Scalehide. And I believe Vicious Scalehide works with this card, and that's probably one of the best synergies you have because Vicious Scalehide can come off of Call to Arms. You can just naturally play it. It's also good with True Silver. So I think it has a lot of potential. But for now, it's just Odd Paladin. You can't play this card.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think about the Vicious Scalehide. That's interesting. The lifesteal part. Okay, well, those are the cards that we thought were underrated, and I just want to take some time now and thanks to some of the folks that support us. That's our patrons, obviously. So if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/valuetown. And, part of some of the appreciation that we wanted to kind of give to our longtime patrons and some of our top patrons is I sent you guys all a free 1 month premium for HS Replay. So definitely check out that in your messages on Patreon. And then, kind of thank some of our guys, Mike T, producer. He's obviously amazing. Been our legendary producer for a long time now. And then some others, Bryce L, Dave C, Devin Y, Chris Chilmaw, Blake T, Eric L, Jackpot 777, Feldy Locks, Old Man Riv, Johnson C, Mario P, Nathan W, Kevin G, Mike T, Richard M. Thanks so much, guys, just to name a few of you guys, for supporting the show and helping us continue doing this. And I definitely want to do some more, cool things for you guys, just in the coming weeks. So I hope you guys can enjoy it, and just let us know. Let us know how you enjoy the site, HSReplay.net, because if you use it, I think you're going to do a lot better on the ladder. So definitely check it out. All right, we got some Q&A here from, actually one last thing too. Remember, we're doing a giveaway too. So if you're not a patron, you can still potentially win a free 1 month premium by following Valuetown's Twitter and HS Replay's Twitter. So that's at ValuetownGG and at HSReplay.net, all one word, which I'll put in chat here. So enter that, and then we'll do kind of the drawing in about a day or so, just to give some of the listeners a chance to do that. Question, we got Jason R here. Now that we are at the very start of the year of the Raven, what legendaries would you recommend new players target crafting now with the thought of getting the most out of them the next 2 years of standard format? I'm not a new player, but I'm playing my Asian or my Asia and EU accounts now, and those feel like they would fall in the same boat. All right, so I want to say legend.
I want to say Baku because I get this question a lot. It's like the most asked question.
Yeah,
I think Baku is safe craft because the decks you play Baku in are a lot of fun, and Baku can be played in every class almost. So safe craft for sure. Most fun card and viable decks and fun decks as well.
Yeah, that's a good section. Baku or Gen, I would say one or the other. Let's see. If I were to think of any of the others,
I think Gen decks are more expensive overall.
Yeah, they're a little bit slower, have more late game in them. What else would you say, Dr. J? You got one that?
I think the odd cost and even cost, specifically the odd cost in Baku, is a fairly safe craft. If we're looking for, I don't think any of the other neutral ones are safe craft. I think one of the safest crafts for legendary wise from classes is Lord Godfrey. Because Lord Godfrey will be played in every single control warlock for the next 20 millenniums. Because Lord Godfrey is just absurdly insane. Maybe I want to say something fun like Shutterwalk or Hagatha, because I snap crafted those golden. But I don't advise that because there is a possibility that it does not see play. But I mean, I do think eventually like that card is absurdly powerful and can see play. But for safe picks, I would go with Lord Godfrey and Baku as my two major ones.
I would say Countess Ashmore is definitely a candidate. I think she's just going to be effective in some deck, like just throughout the entire year and next year or whatever.
I think people should craft more of the epics. I realized today that there's a lot of epics that you want to play in all sorts of different decks, but not so much the legendary ones.
Yeah, they're
There's
very
very
class
few.
specific. They're definitely very class specific.
But look how many viable legendaries you actually have in this expansion. It's not that many in comparison to previous expansions, because we don't have these game-winning win conditions like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Where's the Q&A in chat? Yeah, we can ask some questions, maybe 1 or 2 questions in chat here in a second, but definitely want people. The email questions always take precedent, just because we want our listeners to have a chance. Yeah, so I would say that one. Yeah, Countess, Baku, and Lord Godfrey. Yeah, I think that's
Apparently Prince Keleseth as well.
Prince Keleseth is like, that's an old.
Actually, yeah,
I'm just looking at the numbers on the percentages for text played on HSReplay. Gul'dan is another safe bet.
Gul'dan, exactly right. Look at the number, percentages exactly. That's good. Skull of Minari. I mean, Skull of Minari is just purely like literally just volume of Warlock. That's crazy. This one at least covers all Warlocks, I feel, but Skull of Minari is like literally only Q block. Look at Baku, it's 24.5%. That's insane.
Safecraft.
That is insane. Holy crap. Baku is a quarter of the decks. Holy crap. I mean, Baku's in almost a quarter of them. That's crazy.
Just because he's so versatile and can be played in so many different decks. Like there's the warrior, there's the hunter, there's the rogue now. And I'm sure some people are going to invent some other ones. I tried to do Priest the other night on stream. I played one game and then realized that was the worst decision of my life, and then instantly went back to other decks.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. This is interesting. Leroy's in 16.5%. Wow.
That's because there's a lot of Baku in 24.5.
Yeah, that's true.
I think all of those decks play Leroy.
That's actually, that's a good comment there.
Leroy's safe.
Good correlation, that's for sure. Okay, next question we got. Ahmed N. Why is Spiteful Druid outperforming Spiteful Priest? Is the Dragon package weak and Priest should move away from it in Spiteful decks?
That's a damn good question.
That's a really good question. I've never actually looked into it. I think one of the deciding factors is Druid has more. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Druid has refill to an extent, whereas Priest does not. So, like, if Priest is getting out tempoed and then eventually gets to a game state where they're running out of cards in their hand, it's unfortunate and it's bad. But for Druid, they can just draw the UI, play it, and then have plays the following turn. They also have access to Malfurion, which is very powerful. Like, Spiteful Priest would not run Anduin, but Spiteful Druid would run Malfurion, and Malfurion is a very powerful card. Other than that, though, I'm not quite sure why the Spiteful Druid list is doing so well, because I never really played it. I have friends that they just preach by it, and they say it's the best deck in the game, and I think one of my friends, who's not really known in the scene too well, just got rank 1 with it, with like a 13-0 win streak, and I thought that was insane.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know. I guess I'd have to talk to them, but I don't know why at least they feel it's outperforming a lot of things.
I think it's like Jikininki said, Malfurion is a huge deal, but I think the biggest deal has to be the Spiteful, because it's the core of the deck, and in that deck you only play the Ultimate Infestation.
That's what I was going to say too.
And the 10 mana slot is really the broken turn of the Spiteful. And in Priest you do want to play the 8 mana spell as well, so you kind of have some inconsistency there. That has to be the biggest.
Probably, and you always get Tyrantus or Deathwing off of I played against the Druid last night. Against the Druid last night on stream, and I kid you not, I was playing the Fatigue Warrior that I mentioned, and they had like 5 minions on the board, and I had Brawl, and I said, all right, as long as Deathwing doesn't live, I win, and Deathwing lived. And then the next time I queued the same guy, and the exact same situation happened, except for it was Tyrantus. And I said, all right, as long as Tyrantus doesn't live, we win the game. And Tyrantus lived, so I lost both games.
I faced actually Spiteful into Spiteful, and he got 2 Ultrasaurs. Like, how on earth to kill 2? Like, how to kill 1 Ultrasaur?
Meteor.
How'd you kill
Meteor.
two? How'd you kill two?
That's
Two
true.
meteors.
Meteor barely does it, and they funkle it or something. But no,
Yeah, they funkle
I
it.
know it's out of range. Yeah, I agree with. I was gonna say the exact same thing. It's basically the 10 drop guarantee. Like has a big impact on that. Also, I think just the little ramp you get from Greedy Sprite, it just causes the
That's a
swipe
good
turn to
point.
happen a little bit sooner. And the Cripplord's
It's
just
like
hard
some-
to kill too. That Cripplord's a pain in the ass, like to get rid of. So I
It's very
do
good resistance.
I do like Priest better in terms of removal. Like the Dustbreaker definitely feels better in terms of like that early removal of Paladin at times. But yeah, my experience, it just seems to have tempo a lot more often than the Priest does going into those power turns. But yeah, so they're pretty. I mean, the Priest surprisingly is a little bit lower than I thought, like the win percentage lately. And I just think that I guess the Archivist, mind control plays just aren't as relevant and good, so good question though, definitely good question. We'll take a couple questions from chat if you guys have any. But while we're waiting maybe for one or two there, any kind of cool findings, Dr. J, like since you joined us a little late in the expansion that you discovered in this first week?
Besides the Fatigue Warrior, there's really nothing that I feel is. There's nothing that I have personally found. Then again, I haven't had as much time to play with the set because I was traveling a lot to cast the Witchwood Invitational, and then I've been getting some stuff done around like just personal stuff. So I've been trying to play as much as I can when I can, but unfortunately, I think the biggest thing that I really like, I'm going to try and work on a little bit is Fatigue Warrior because I think that has a strong possibility, and I really like the new Druid deck that came out, the Taunt Druid.
Yeah.
And the Hadronox Druid, and other than that, that's about it for me.
So one thing that we talked about at the very beginning of the show is that there's been a little bit of comparison to this expansion to TGT, which I think both of me and Gaara think is not fair. Or we don't quite agree with that. Do you think there's any similarities in the fact that some of these cards or mechanics seem to be whiffs, I guess, for lack of a better word?
I think this set is not. I don't think it's like TGT, but I don't think it's one of the more powerful sets they've had so far. I think there's a lot of cards that can set up powerful things. For instance, we can look at cards like Shutterwalk, we can look at cards like Tess Greymane, we can look at cards like Baku and Glenn. All of these cards are potentially extremely powerful with the right circumstances. The issue is we just had 300 some cards rotate, and this set wasn't Kobolds and Catacombs, because I think the trend is the sets become more and more powerful as the rotation comes along. So the reason Kobolds and Catacombs was just so absurdly powerful for certain classes and just had so many impactful cards was because if they didn't make those cards impactful, how are they going to see play over the past 2 years of sets? Whereas this one, they can say, okay, we can calm it down a little bit, maybe set cards up for the future, and with that thought process, we can make the cards weaker, knowing that some of them will see play just off the fact that so many cards are rotating.
Or they could create Jade Idol, like they did like the last year, and start off the year that way. But
I think
this is much better, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this trend should continue also in future years. That the first expansion of a new cycle should be a very low power level expansion like this one.
I would have liked to. I mean, I totally get the rationale, and I think you're right about that. Just both, Dr. J and Gaara, in terms of what their philosophy is. It's just to create at least a powerful base, and then kind of build slowly upon it. I kind of would like to see what the game would look like just starting at a low tier base again. And like, how would we react? How would the community react if we just didn't have crazy powerful cards in K and C, like just the cube block, just the carnivorous cube and the void lords and things like that. Like,
I wish the decays were gone as well.
Which one?
Like the Death Knights.
The hero cards,
DKs?
They don't fit in these like lower power level meta. They are really like absurdly strong in comparison.
They are, but they're strong late. You know what I mean? Like, I'm I'm okay with that. You know, like having the DKs really have an impact. You know, late in games because there have to be control decks, right, to do that. But I don't know. I kind of I wish that we could see more of these like mid range decks. Have some viability. But right now we can't because there's at least an established power level from the control deck, which we're basically basing everything off of, which is the key block. And then we've got these all kinds of different arrays of aggro right now, right? So I don't know, maybe in a few weeks it'll look a little bit different, and then maybe things will swap up. Maybe there'll be another control deck that's actually better than key block, but right now, like, we already have like potentially one of the best control decks established, and it's refined, and I don't see it not getting refined. It's like pretty darn good right now, and it just gets better with removal over time. So,
I honestly think that we have maybe reached a state of Hearthstone currently that if they do not vastly change the way cards are designed, there may never be a mid-range deck like you're probably thinking of. For instance, like mid-range Druid. Remember that deck? You just combo Druid a long time ago. You would just play a minion on curve or a ramp until eventually maybe you whittled them down enough that you could end them with a combo. Or even if you didn't have that combo, like a mid-range deck like Patron, where you just like have kind of a mid-rangey style of gameplay with not much late game, not much early game, but your mid-range is so powerful, and not many decks had an answer for that. Because the reason I'm saying that is because all of the control decks the game has developed at this point have so many powerful control tools that mid-range decks cannot overcome.
Yeah.
So, for instance, that's where the hero cards come into play. Most mid-range decks cannot answer hero cards, and hero cards are just so absurdly powerful against mid-range decks that it's very hard for them to thrive. And then they don't beat the aggro decks because the aggro decks are way too aggressive in the early game, and they don't have the tools to beat the early game because the mid-range deck can't afford to play that. So basically the mid-range deck is stuck in the middle where it cannot beat control or aggro, so it doesn't fit into the meta.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point. Yeah. I mean, it's not to say that the mid-range Druid is exactly what we want either. I mean,
oh yeah, of course. I was just using it as the first example.
Something close to it, to be honest, is the Spiteful. Like, instead of having a 2-card combo, we just have kind of like this 1-card crazy swing turn on 6, which is the Spiteful.
I think Spiteful is the closest thing to a mid-range deck. I guess Spiteful is the mid-range deck, and the reason it is because Spiteful Summoner is so absurdly powerful that you can afford to sacrifice some of the turns that you're playing throughout the course of the game for weaker minions.
Right. In mid-range, I mean, a lot of times mid-range just turns into Curvestone anyway, so it's not that interesting to watch or play. So I'm not that upset about that, that kind of deck not being there, but it would just be, we would see more cards. Like, it's so cool seeing Raid Leader and Stormwind Champion in the top deck, for a little while, right? The Baku deck.
What a time to be alive.
I mean, this is like insane, right? Baku deck. But that's cool. Like, I'd be so awesome to see some of these other cards that have been in the base set or classic set that have been sitting there on the verge of being good if the right type of deck around it is good. So like with Raid Leader and Stormwind, we needed something that go wide consistently, like can refill the board consistently, that we could get this buffing. And now all the cards that buff all minions are crazy powerful right now in Baku decks, and that's really, really cool, So, obviously we can't, but, it'll be interesting to see next year. Maybe they'll start off a little bit weaker, but, it's a sales thing too. You got to sell these expansions. So it can be tough balancing and doing that too. We got a question here from, let's see, it looks like Hercules Gamer. What do you think of Oakheart? I feel like it's got some busts with the new cards. I'm not sure what that bust. I think it's gotten stronger with the new cards. So we see Oakheart obviously in the Druid, but overall, I mean, do you think it's better because of certain cards, or just certain cards being added? We didn't see it much last expansion. We literally saw like Tice play it at Seat Story, with the Draconite Enchanter, right? Yeah.
I mean, Oka could work as a win condition as well. I think all alternative win conditions are better now. just in general, just because we don't have cards like Nuzov anymore or Jades. Then automatically a card like O-Card gets stronger. It's also like one of the strongest late game cards we can play right now if you look at the overall card pool. So definitely, and obviously in Taunt Druid, one of the best cards.
Yeah, it pulls out Hydronox, but people don't realize that it's one of the cards that can pull out because it pulls out a 1, 2, and 3 attack minion. So you can kind of figure out the best way to get that. And then the Dragon Hatcher too, right? It can pull out the Dragon Hatcher, which throws down a Primordial Drake. So yeah, any thoughts on Oakheart, Dr. J?
I don't think Oakheart's. I think Oakheart's okay. I think it's like fine. I think maybe it's always one of those cards that just just putting that much stats into play is very powerful, especially when you could do things like you get Tar Creeper, Dragon Hatcher, and you get Hadronox, and then Dragon Hatcher pulls Primordial Drake. That is a huge swing, and that is very powerful. But it only really fits in a deck like that. And the only reason that's like so powerful is because it's effectively like having another search card for. It's like effectively having a second Hadronox. Like you can either naturally draw the Hadronox or you can draw Oakheart. So it basically gives you 2 chances to get the Hadronox from your deck into play, which for that Taunt Druid can mean the difference in dying or living.
Yeah.
And another thing is that fatigue doesn't matter in a deck like this. Usually you didn't play Oakheart in control lock because fatigue is one of your win conditions, and you don't want to fatigue fast because of the Oakheart.
Yeah. So at least in the near future, I think it's going to be around a while. If you don't have it, I don't know if I would craft it or anything like that quite yet. But it's a card they have to be careful with too. You can't make it too, but you can't. It's a little bit design restrictive because now you can't make anything that's got like a 1, 2, or 3 attack minion be crazy powerful. Like you can't make well, you can make a 3/12 obviously, but you can't make something like a 3/12 that does something crazy too. Like in terms of tech.
You can't make another 3/9 that summons 3/1/3s and is a demon. Like
there you go.
Let's not get Void Lord number 2 in the game.
There you go. Okay, last one. Shine X Blazer asks, "With playoffs coming up, can you guys forecast what tournament meta is going to look like? Must be pretty cool without Warlocks because of the bans." Gaara was mentioning like the upcoming events are going to be pretty awesome just to see what the events, the decks are going to be. But what do you guys think? You guys are obviously pro players and compete in these tournaments. Well, first off, do you anticipate the bans being Warlock?
I think a lot of decks can beat Warlock. I would say if there would be like an overrated deck of the week or whatever, it would definitely be Cube-Block for me because I think it's definitely beatable with all sorts of different strategies. You can go for the Miracle Rogue route, the Crest Rogue route. You can go for super hyper aggressive decks like face decks, or other control decks can beat it. Like even like one of the decks that is doing extremely well against it is Big Spell Mage, and that used to be its worst matchup before the expansion. It was like
auto
lose a free win.
Yeah,
it's
harder
to
heal.
It's quite the opposite.
Yeah,
and so people could be actually targeting Warlock instead of banning it. Definitely not auto ban. I think there will be very different strategies, more different strategies than ever before, at least in the past 2 years, because I can see people definitely ban the most aggressive deck and go for like a control strategy, try maybe like target control decks, but some people might ban Warlock definitely because it's overall potentially one of the strongest classes, and definitely very different strategies in many different classes. I can actually see all classes being played in the playoffs. Even Shaman. Honestly, what I wanted to mention earlier is Shadowshock Shaman is really good against slow decks. It could actually be
that's true. Yeah,
the strongest anti-control deck besides Crystal.
Yeah, it's kind of like the new Quest Mage.
Yes, so a very good tournament deck, not so good on ladder.
It does pretty well against Warrior too, right? Like control.
Almost every Warrior deck it crushes.
Yeah, I mean it's like a crazy high percentage.
Without Dirty Rat, there is no way a slow deck it crushes Control Mage, it crushes Control Warrior. It does really well against Control Warlock, but not Cube-Block. Cube-Block it's probably like 50-50 with, or it's probably unfavored.
I think it's unfavored.
I think it's unfavored as well. Any slow deck, this deck just preys on because it does the exact same thing as Quest Mage. It aims to get to a combo, it gets to the combo, and then you know you're dead, and you cannot interact with it. And that combo for Shudderwock Shaman is not that hard to achieve, plus there is legitimate healing in the deck. So I could see Shudderwock Shaman playing tournament. As for the tournament meta, it's gonna be very rock, paper, scissory, like almost every meta, and it's gonna be really hard to say what's going to happen. Because there's people gonna be banning Warlock with the strategy of, you know what, I'm gonna bring Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue, and some minion-based decks, and I'm gonna try and beat up on the people bringing just random stuff. Maybe I'll just bring good stuff. Or maybe they'll bring a Warlock of their own.
Right.
There's going to be people trying to target Warlock, and then there's going to be people trying to target things like Quest Rogue. Because Quest Rogue has seen a lot of success lately, but Quest Rogue is very susceptible to decks like any aggressive
Paladin.
deck, honestly.
Just any Paladin, yeah.
Any Paladin, there's Hunter, I think it's only like
Tempo
13% against Baku Hunter, because there's no way Rogue's dealing with the hero power unless they can get the vicious scale high.
Right.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how the meta develops. EU is going to set the pace, of course, because they are the first one, and everyone's going to have to take the knowledge that they learn. It's going to be really fun from a viewing standpoint, but it's going to be really hard from a player standpoint to see where we go. Because, I mean, this brings me back to, I believe it was summer playoffs last year, where EU went before NA, and in the Americas region,
right.
I was like, okay, I'll bring this because this is what EU did. And I think North America is going to be a little bit different, but they're going to be similar to that. And the next thing you know, 9 lineups got announced day one, and they all had Quest Rogue, Quest Mage, and a combo priest. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that's shocking.
Right.
So you never know.
Yeah, it's trying to metagame the metagame. Like, it's like, how many levels of metagaming are you going to be doing? So it's it's always interesting to see how everybody reacted to it, and then in the end, like, how things play out, right? So when is the playoff start? Is that in is that in April? It's in the end of
Tomorrow.
April? Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh my god.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, guys.
No, it's in May.
Jeez, man, don't scare me, dude. God.
It's in May.
Wow, it's tomorrow. Holy crap.
Europe is the 5th and 6th.
Okay.
Americas is the 12th and 13th, and then APAC is the 19th.
God,
and 20th.
how crazy would it be if it was tomorrow? the decks would be wild, man, if it was tomorrow. But another 2 weeks. Oh, they actually might have to submit in a week, right? So
they will most likely submit Tuesday the 1st for Europe, and then Tuesday the 8th. Typically, the players submit the Tuesday before they compete.
Okay, they got some time then. Cool, definitely great. Okay, well, definitely glad you were able to join us, man, and get definitely your insight on even just the topics that you were here for. Were really, really good, Dr. J. But we're gonna wrap things up. You want to do some shout outs before you take off?
Yeah, sorry, as you can see by my camera, I have not blinked at all, and I haven't put makeup on, so I apologize for that. Just shout outs. You can check me out on Twitter. It's at DrJikininki. It's on the screen. But if you're listening, it's DrJikininki. Sorry, it's a mouthful, just like Shudderwock. But you can spell it, don't worry. Also, twitch.tv/DrJikininki, and I'd like to thank Space Station Gaming for supporting me and being my team and organization. And I apologize again for coming in late. I don't know what to say. Sorry about that.
Crap happens. Shit happens. That's just how, it's all good. All right, Gaara, how about you?
Yeah, shout outs to my Twitter as well, as you can see down here. Shout outs to the lovely viewers that join us on this amazing show. Shout outs to my own stream, twitch.tv/GaaraShaman. I stream every single day, playing a lot of different cool decks, and yeah, that's it for me.
All right, and I'll wrap things up by thanking everybody that tuned in today, and the two of you guys for doing the show. Don't forget all the giveaways that we're doing. We're doing like the 60-pack one, which if you type the giveaway command, you'll be able to get the link there. Just go to that link and just enter it in the various ways. And then if you follow Valuetown and HS Replay today, you'll be entered into a giveaway for some HS Replay 1 month free premium, which unlocks everything on the site for you. So you can just like utilize it as much as you want and figure out just all the advantages, or just to have the knowledge so you can have an advantage going into the ladder. The VODs, of course, are on youtube.com/ChanManV. You can find the show as well as youtube.com/HSReplay.net. We're trying to get people over there, but it's a slow process. And then you can find the audios on iTunes as well as Google Play and SoundCloud. .com/ChanManV. So if you enjoy the show, make sure you leave a review. It definitely helps out in terms of people finding, their favorite Value Town podcasts or not Value Town, Hearthstone podcasts and things like that. But that's going to be it, guys, for this week. Oh, and if you want to send in a question, by the way, like an email question, go ahead and email that to valuetown at chanmanv.tv. And I'll make sure we get that in. Deck of the week is going to be the Taunt Druid this week. We're going to be doing that on Monday with our patrons. But you can send in, everybody can partake in it. You can send in your stats too. But I'll post it up on the patron site, patreon.com/valuetown, and then we'll have our little mini show on Monday. Resume it again because we've taken a break. But that's going to be it, guys, for this week. So for DrJikininki, Gaara, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next week.